chats with, it's Corner Office Chats with Maureen and Alexis. I think I started a little too early, but we weren't live yet.
We were really excited there to get going.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep,
There's a little bit of feedback. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. All right, so today's topic, Alexis, we are talking about intentional communication. So, every day or every Thursday when you guys join us on at 1:30 on our Corner Office Chats, what you're here joining us doing is we're speaking about a topic that's, on the forefront. You guys are talking about it in our group, about communication, effective communication. What is that all about? So that's why we chose for today's topic to talk about intentional communication. We talk about effective, we talk about, clear communication, but how often do you hear somebody say, what is your intentions in your communication? So that's what we are talking about today in our little corner office here. So Alexis, how are you? How's everything? What are your thoughts around intentional communication?
Yeah. Well, things are good. For me, I think in terms of intentional communication, like this is what separates those really great leaders from, the good leaders, or the really great friends, the really great listeners from the good listeners or the good friends. It's that intention that goes behind the message, or even if it's not the message, the presence within a conversation. And so, the first thing I think, really has to do with mindset and really thinking through what is your intention for this communication? What kind of experience do I want to create here? Now, I'm not saying that necessarily we have to do this with every single little communication with our spouses and with our kids, but when it's a bigger conversation, when it's a conversation with your team member, and especially now when most of us are working remotely, a lot of us are working remotely, those communications that we do have with our team are so important, because you're not passing each other 50 times in the office. You're not having all these little sidebar conversations and developing the relationship that way in person like we did before. So now these communications, because they're not quite as often, we really want to be intentional about the experience that we're creating there. And so that sometimes is just taking a few minutes before you start the conversation to think, okay, what do I want this person to know? How do I want this person to feel at the end of the conversation? And what do I need to do to get us there? Right? As opposed to just jumping in and what is that hope and pray? Let's just hope that it works. Let's just hope that they get what I'm saying, instead of taking a few minutes to really think about it and think about what you're going to say and what you want to create in that moment with that person.
Yeah, exactly. And what you said, it all comes down to your mindset. It's shifting that mindset and everything. Why are you hearing this so much about having clarity and shifting that mindset? Because the core foundation, the core foundation to anything, whether it's your communication, whether it's, through Zoom, on a phone, in an email, whatever it is, that your social media, whatever communication you're doing, even with your spouse or with your children, with your coworkers, your peers, you want to make sure that you've got that clear mindset, what it is that you're bringing into that conversation. So very, very key thing when you're coming in. I wanted to give an example. You can imagine if you're speaking to your children. Let's talk about children. Most of us have children at home and are dealing with, virtual learning and all those things. So think about, what type of communication or intentions you're putting into having a conversation with them. 9 out of 10 times you're trying to make them do something, like get on your call, get your stuff done. And when we're doing that, we're not coming from a point of how it's going to affect them, right? So when we're in our own heads, in our own heads and our own mindset, and not being with somebody out there, then there's no connection. We're only coming from what we're dealing with and what we need done. So it's really important that the first thing you do when you're setting your intention is make a connection first with the person, whether it's your child, your spouse, your coworker, or just a friend that you're talking to. Ask them, how are you? How is your day? With my kids, I'll be like, so what's going on? How's everything? You guys having a good day? Hear a little bit about, okay, well, we do also need to, I was like, I'm really sorry that you went through that, or really excited for you that you got a 90% on something that you studied so hard for, whatever it is. And then slowly start to transition. Okay, so we have to get ready for dinner. What is it that you guys want? Or we need to clean up. This is what's in the dashboard for today. And then once they know that you've connected with them, it's easier for us to have them collaborate with you in coming up with whatever it is that you want them to do. Right? So really, really important when you're creating that intentional communication that you are connecting with the other person and really seeing where they are. And actually you can reform if they're really frustrated, or if they're really in another level in their energy, you can actually connect to that level and then start bringing them back down to where you can really connect with them. So it's really on how you're being. So that's my little tidbit about intentional communication.
Yeah, no, I love it. And in that too is being really aware of the language that we're using and making sure that, you're not using too much negative language. And sometimes it's just a simple, rephrasing and reframing of the question or the statement to be more positive leaning. And we may not even think about it, but it's just the way in which people are going to interpret it. So for example, let's say you had a team member and you need them to do something different on, they're uploading data in a certain way. And let's say they're batch uploading it, and you need them to individually upload it because it's crashing the system. I don't know. This is just made up. But instead of saying, no matter how nicely you say it, please don't batch upload, you could say, could you please upload individually, as this is, better suited for the system. And instead of saying, please don't do this, just ask them what you would like them to do. Yeah. And it's just as simple. You're going to get to the same result, right? You're just being a little bit more direct and more framed to the positive. And people are going to be like, oh, okay, versus, oh, they're telling me no, I'm doing something wrong again.
Yeah.
And again, this is for any kind of communication. Specifically, I think in business, we want to be a little bit more intentional because we don't always have the time to kind of swing back to the same a different conversation with somebody else. With our kids or our partners, I think sometimes there's a little bit more lenience because you can come back and be like, sorry about that. And rephrase it. You've got a second, third, fourth, fifth chance. We don't always have that in business, in more professional communication. So we want to be more intentional going in. The other thing that I want to bring up is, on top of language, is that nonverbal communication is so important. It's important in real life, but I think it's even, it's just as if not a little bit more important when we are working remotely and we're relying on things like Zoom and Microsoft Teams and these platforms that are amazing at connecting us. But I find it's almost sometimes harder that nonverbal communication can actually throw people off. So you're trying to have a conversation, you can see somebody's eyes up into the corner doing something else as they're talking. It's just like if you were in a conversation in real life and all of a sudden the person picks up the phone and starts texting. And it's like, yeah,
are you calling me out?
You're totally calling
me out. She totally called me out. Okay.
Right, we do it, but when we're in real life, we can sometimes catch ourselves quicker, or the person can say like, hello, you can catch it. And yeah. But on things like this, it's easy to make the other person feel like their time is not valuable. It can easily make them feel like you're actually not listening. And you might just be like, well, I have to speak next, so I'm just going to quickly get my things in order, my points organized. But it makes the other person feel like they're not a priority for you in that moment. And that could be, the farthest from the truth. But again, it's that perception, and it's going to change the way that interaction is going to unfold. So being aware of that nonverbal, so eye contact, your facial expression. And it gets hard, right? When we're virtual and we've been on 18 Zoom calls today, and that 19th one, you're just like, I'm still here on these calls. Right? Try and find a way. We talked in our coaching session this morning with our clients about energy and generating it. So do some jumping jacks before you have to jump on, play a song, and dance around and get your energy up for that 19th Zoom call today, because that's the first interaction they're going to have with you, right? So you want to create that intentional experience every time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for those of you who joined in as soon as we had the countdown, we intentionally put, that rave music. So it gets you hyped up, gets you excited, anticipating, like, here we are, Maureen and Alexis are about to come on. And it gets us, we hear it too. So we're in the background. You can't see us, but we don't want you to see us. We're dancing it off, and we're connecting with each other and creating the intention that we want to bring in our communication. That's why it's really important. So again, it's not always just about how to be effective. I mean, it's not just about effective or the right communication or clear communication. It's really about the intention that you want to leave there and visualizing that and creating that experience. So I loved everything that you said about that, Alexis. I wanted to add that, at times we are multitasking, we are on Zoom, and we are doing things. Get in communication, say, I'm listening, I'm just looking at something, to pull that down so that we can address that as well, just so that people know that you're not paying attention, that you are paying attention to them, but you are also multitasking to bring it into the conversation. So it kind of helps that that collapses that concern that somebody may have that you're not listening to them. So and always check in with the person that you're speaking with, and just to see, like, I'm speaking about this. Are you with me on this? Is it making sense? Is it clear? Is there any thoughts that you have about it? Because sometimes they may be lost on the first 2 points that you've talked about, and you've lost them on the third and fourth point that you're going through. So you just want to, with that nonverbal communication, just check in with them and say, should I stop here? Should we address anything before moving forward? Or, where are we? So that's really important as well. So I was just telling Alexis, I was like, how many of you guys are wondering, we tell people, book a call with us. And a lot of you are like, well, what are we going to talk about? And I'm like, that's the best conversations, because you can come with nothing, with no intentions, but just to connect and have that conversation. Because a lot of you all set calls with us, and it's so phenomenal. We get to learn who you are. You get to learn about us. And I mean, most of them will say to be like, I feel like I'm talking to a best friend. I'm like, because there's no judgment zone. There's just a space of just connecting, and bring anything and everything in your conversation. And I'm open to it, open to receive. When you start to come with that intention, then you create that space of people feel comfortable. People feel like they can talk to you about anything, and just know that you're there. I always come as a way to connect and a way to serve. How can I help you? What can I leave you with? Is there any follow-up that we need to, end the conversation with, that I need to come back with later? So think about, when I know for like introverts, it's really tough. My husband, my daughter, they're both introverts. They're like, how do you come up with stuff to talk to with strangers? I'm like, I don't know. Just start talking. We may talk about the pandemic first, or we may talk about our kids, or what are we up to, or what's exciting us today, and what's been on our dashboard as a struggle for us today that we're trying to get through. Because we're all human beings. We're going through our life. So it's just when you have that clear space, you can create whatever it is in conversation.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities. And, if you have the intention of simply supporting, then I think that is why, for you and me, Marina, like, it's not scary to just jump on a call with a stranger, because we do have an intention. We may not know exactly what the topic is going to be, but our intention is to support you. So whatever that looks like, and so we're very conscious of those conversations and the impression or the feeling that we want to leave you with. And really, that's where it starts. And then it's amazing where those conversations can go. But we're thinking through them, and we're prepared for the atmosphere and the experience that we want to create. And that's, I think, what we're talking about behind intentional communication, is just putting a little bit of thought into how you want that to unfold, how you want the other person to feel. And so all of those things we talked about, the language, being aware of the language that you're using, all of that falls into how that other person is going to feel, right? You said something earlier, and you said about, we're not sure what you need, but we're here to support. And it just triggered for me, like, when a boss, or if you're a leader and you've got a team, and if your boss says, okay, what do you need? Right? That feeling sometimes is like, ooh, I don't want to tell them I need anything, because then maybe they think I can't do my job. The same question, but phrased differently, how can I support you? Right? You're still offering support, whether you're saying, what do you need? Or how can I support you in this? It's the same result that you're after, but it's a different way of phrasing it. Again, a couple of seconds of thinking about how you're going to word something can make all the difference and can make all the experience for the other person.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the check-ins that we do with our teams. The first thing on Mondays, I meet with my manager, and that's the first thing we look at. We look at our week. What is it? What do you need support in? How can I support you? Do you need me on any other calls besides these? All the things. So it's a really great way to get connected with someone and just to see what's going on. Because sometimes, like last week, I was dealing with something. There was a death in our family, and I just said, I really can't work on this. My mind space is elsewhere. And if you could just take over, taking care of this. And they're like, people are more than willing to step in. And, I've struggled with this. And it's here recently that I've really been more aware and open to it, that I've struggled with allowing people to contribute. And Alexis, you and I have talked about this. I said, my go-to is that, I don't want to burden you. I'll just take care of it because I'm already here. I'll just do it. But what happens is it leaves the other person feeling as if they cannot contribute to you, or that they're not performing at what your expectations are. And I do that a lot sometimes. And so I've been being more conscious that how the other person is receiving me when I'm showing up that way. So if that sounds like you, where you're just like, you're ambitious, you're a go-getter, and you feel like you're doing it all, maybe check in with yourself, because I have to check in with myself that, well, maybe I'm the one who's taking it on, and not giving other people the opportunity, and, and have that conversation with the person. And because Alexis and I have have had that conversation, she knows that I'm not, there's not that kind of animosity or any type of feeling, but she will call me out. She's like, I said, I'll do it. I was like, oh, okay. Sorry. I was sitting here, so I thought I'd just do it.
Yeah. And I have this experience in a relationship. I was brought up to be a very independent woman, take care of yourself, always look out for you. And, that's just the way that I was raised, and it was working for me. I was getting, the stuff done. I was going in where I wanted to go. And I remember I was in a newer relationship, and, the guy said to me, like, if I can't do it, like, what's my purpose here if I can't contribute to this relationship? Like, because he was like, oh, can I help you with this? I'm like, no, I got it. Can I help you with this? No, I got it. Do you need this? No, I'm good. So it's like, and I remember thinking, like, but in my head, and don't get me wrong, like, I think I'm all down for, like, the independent woman, everything. But when you have a relationship, whether it's an intimate relationship, whether it's a professional relationship, there has to be give and take, right? So I learned that from a very young age, that you have to think about the other person's perspective in this relationship, whatever that may be. And that experience, I remember being like, what is he talking about? But then thinking about it, I'm like, right, like, there has to be, we have to have our roles. We have to have the things that, I take care of this and he takes care of this, or I can rely on him for this and he can rely on me for this, even though I can do it myself.
Yeah.
That's not a relationship. Right. So that really carried through professional relationships of mine, that, if somebody wants to help or contribute on the team, just because I believe that maybe I could do it better, and that's not always fact, that's just up here sometimes, that, I'd be like, well, no, this person wants to contribute, so I'm going to invite them to and allow them to, right? Because this is a team. This is not the Alexis show. This is not, I want other people in my life. So I have to allow that. And, like, I laugh about it now, but I'm like, I remember that conversation, and it was like, bing, like the light bulb. And I was like, right. Everyone wants to feel like they have their role, that they have their place, and that they can be counted on for certain things. So I just wanted to bring that into this intentional conversation, when you're thinking about that with your team members, with your partners, with your kids, with your friends. even though you can do it, how can you let others contribute as well?
Yeah. And one last tidbit I will add to this is that stand in your commitment that you're creating. So with my commitment is partnership with Alexis. With my commitment with my husband is that we have a connected relationship. So with my commitment to my kids is I'm supporting them. They're now teenagers, young adults, they want to do everything on their own, is to support them as young adults as they go on to being their own individual person. It's very hard, you guys. It gets hard. I'm sorry. Got young kids, it gets hard. But I'm like, I always tell Alexis, I was like, enjoy the young years. It gets harder. So no, but stand in the commitment with whoever it is, your friend, your colleague, your spouse, your partner, whoever it is. Make sure that you're standing in that commitment. And what do you want that to how do you want that to show up? How do you want it to lead that person? Do you want them to be left being supported? You want them to left feeling connected? Do you want them to being left feeling positive? What is your role in your connection with that person? So when you start to do that, like how many of us have siblings that sometimes we don't see eye to eye, or even with our parents, or like get frustrated because they don't see things the same way or whatever. But I'm committed to having that relationship with my sibling or with my parents. So I stand with love. I stand with connection. That's what I'm going to leave them. We can disagree all day long. That's fine. But I still love them. And I make sure that when I leave, I intentionally communicate to them that I love them, no matter what it is that we've, maybe had a little spat about. But I'm glad that we talked about it. And I just want you to know that I'm so glad that you're free with what you talked about. And I love you, and thank you for hearing me out as well. When you start to put that into place, people start to see and feel that and show up in that way as well. So it's you really can, as leaders, you all can really have an impact on how you're showing up. So with that being said, Alexis, I wanted to remind everybody that we have our 5-day workshop starting on Monday, and it's free. It's free for all of you. You can come in. It's we're on 1:30 Eastern, Monday through Friday, for about 45 minutes to an hour each day. We go live, and it's fun. You get a concierge, you get a workbook. We make it like, if it's a workshop, you're going to be doing some work as well, because we're going to get you from being a high achiever to becoming a limitless leader, that abundant mindset, being very intentional with what you're doing in your life, getting really focused on the goal that you need to focus on that has the biggest ROI, whether that's in your time, your health, whether that's in your wealth, whatever it is that you want to create for yourself. You bring that, and we will hit that on. And we'll talk more about communication and how you're showing up. We'll talk more about your mindset. We'll talk more about how to choose the right choices. We'll talk about how to make that bold move, show up courageously, and then how to really stand in what it is that you want for yourself and for your community, and really start making that happen. And how do you create that community around you to support you to make that happen? So if you haven't signed up already, you can sign up. I'll drop the link in the chat box here so that you guys have that. But it's goalsetcoach.com. Go and sign up. It's free. You don't lose anything. If you can't join us live, don't worry. You'll get the replays. We'll do a watch party in the evenings, and Alexa and I will be in the chat chatting with you. And yeah, we'll just make it fun. And that's why we've been in the DMs with you. Our team has been in the DMs with you, trying to find out like what is it that you're struggling, because we cater it to this community. The goal, if you're outside of our Facebook group watching us right now, it's within the Goal Set Group Facebook community. And that's the community that we've created, where we're taking people who are high achievers, taking them to that next level, limitless leader, where mindset, conviction and everything that you do, positivity, all that comes in. And then having that play into whether you're a professional and leading teams, how do you make that come into play? Or whether you're starting a business or in a business leading teams, and how do you make that come into play? So you don't want to miss it. I'm going to drop that in there. Any final notes from your end?
No, just definitely register, guys, because even if you're in our group right now and you'll be able to access it, register because you'll get the workbook, which is super helpful. It's not a ton of work, but it helps you jot down some ideas, fill in some blanks so that when you come back weeks or months later, you can come back. We're going to give you some tools that you can use, and you want to be able to go through them as we're going through them live, because you can pop questions in the chat and we will get to them, if not that day, in our Q&A at the end of the week. And you'll get your concierge, which is great. That's a direct link to our team. A team member will reach out to you. You can ask any questions if you're stuck anywhere. And we only assign that once you're registered. So that's super important. Register for the workshop. You'll get the workbook, the concierge, and you'll get the reminders and everything else to tune in either live or on the replay later on in the evening.
Yeah, and if you're not in the group already, join us.
In the group, yeah.
The Goal Set group. We get to engage with you, get to know what you're up to, and support you in any way that we can. And don't forget, you guys, get out there. The next conversation that you're going to have or email you're going to write, really set your intention and what it is that you want to leave that person or leave that audience or whoever it is that you're speaking to, however, whatever modality, and really set that intention and come from there. All right. And then start to communicate. You'll be very clear on what it is then you want to create with them. Okay. Thank you, everyone. That was it for today for Corner Office Chats. We will, for those of you who are registered, we'll see you Monday in the group. And for the rest of you who follow us on our Corner Office Chat, we won't be here on Thursday we won't be here Thursday of next week. We won't be doing Corner Office Chat because we will be in our group doing our 5-day workshop. So we'll skip 1 week and we'll be back the following. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.